Hello again, I'm Kev F Comic Artist. That's where you'll find the blog and all the socials. And I'm doing my TV review of the year. This is, I think, part 4. At the end of the previous one, the sound went. And I was telling you, my favourite staple show is Only Connect. Society is divided into people who watch Only Connect and people who don't. And I don't think I could ever be proper friends with someone who doesn't. Now, we come to the podcasts. This is the first time I've done a list of podcasts, and it's not very authoritative because I didn't keep a note of all the podcasts I was listening to as I went through the year. But I drive quite a lot, so I listen to an awful lot. So at number 10, I've put Brain of Britain and Counterpoint because Radio 4 quizzes are fab. At number 9, No Such Thing as a Fish. The QI elves just make it sort of effortless to talk about their favourite things and make it not sound boring. Then you listen to any other podcast where people are just sat around a table chatting and... well, it gets a bit indulgent and usually a bit blokey. So if there's anything as good as the QI Elves, which is authoritative and packed with facts, do please tell me. At number 8 in my podcast of the year, I've put the panel games. Unbelievable. The news quiz, The Now Show, which I know isn't a panel game, it's a comedy show. The Now Show, or the Channel 4 comedy, Paul Sinhar's perfect pub quiz, by the way. It's absolutely fantastic. And the Now Show was a topical comedy show, not a quiz show, and it was a good example of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That was what I was trying to say. In that it was going great, and then some idiot tried to fix it by sacking some of the best contributors, John Holmes and Mitch Benn. They got rid of them, and therefore they broke it. And then when the replacement people turned out not to be as good as anyone could have told them they wouldn't have been, they cancelled it. Attempts to replace it have largely failed. At number 7 in my podcasts of the year is Cautionary Tales and More or Less. Tim Harford is just fantastic with well-scripted, well-researched, fact-based material, which I can listen to endlessly. More or Less has been a staple for years, and now Cautionary Tales from Pushkin gives you more of the same. Heartily recommend anything by Tim Harford. At number 6, World of Secrets is, to be honest, the only title I can remember of that I've listened to a number of these true crime stories, but I've listened to loads of true crime stories. Some have come from Tortoise, some have come from Pushkin, a lot have come from the BBC, and some have come from others, but I didn't write them down. And I've heard series about murders and missing bodies from Australia to California, from the 19th century to the present day. Great shows about the Branch Davidian cult. There's a cult in Hampstead. I've just started listening to another one about another cult. There's a lot of these cults about, and they don't all make good radio. There was one that included illegal fly tipping with gangsters in Northern Ireland. So many of these true crime podcasts. I may have an entire top 10 of those next year if I start keeping a good list of what I've actually listened to, because you can't look back on what it is you've listened to. Number 5 in my podcast of the year is Screenshot. Mark Kermode and Ellen E. Jones have been running an exemplary movie programme which gives you great interviews and looks at surprising angles and subjects. If there's any other movie podcasts, tell me about them. I've tried them, and again, they're all overindulgent or chatty or just not authoritative or not full of fabulous interviews, concisely edited and well presented like this. Podcasts should be 45 minutes maximum. They shouldn't go on for 3 hours and only have 30 minutes content in them. That's Kev's rules. At number 4 in my podcast of the year, Uncanny. Danny Robbins, who we've known since he was a student. He's the king of haunting and ghosts, and his radio series on the subject is simply the best. From the theme tune by Lanterns on the Lake to his catchphrase, bloody hell, Ken, he's nailed it. He's got a much-deserved cult following, and it's a joy to listen to. Number 3 on my podcast of the year, Things Fell Apart. This was John Ronson. He's done 2 series of this. It's exemplary work. It's really as good as any of his books. It's written for Radio First. He's explored the roots of the culture wars that are riddling society in the 2020s, and he gets inside his subject with brilliant insight, explaining it beautifully. Number 2 in my podcast of the year, and I think you can see the photo up there, it's The Master, the allegations against Neil Gaiman. Ooh, this was a squirm fest from start to finish. Neil comes across really very creepy in this. I've met Neil, met him at a wedding, and all I can say is don't get into a name-dropping contest with Neil Gaiman, you will not win. And, I've never found him anything other than charming, but apparently he's also quite handsy and gaslighty, exploity, and not someone you want to get into a hot tub with. Allegedly. allegedly, this is all alleged. I mean, ever since this programme's come out, people have gone very quiet on the subject, so I can't begin to imagine what's happening behind the scenes. But don't sue me, please. And number one in my podcast of the year, it's the one that's up there behind me. It's The Rest is Entertainment. My new favourite podcast from this year, Marina Hyde and Richard Osman, explaining everything about the world of entertainment. They just seem to know it all, and they're a joy to listen to. The only thing they haven't answered yet is what they really think about season 1 of The Franchise, which we will get to in my next instalment of TV of the Year.